say that you have something to offer that no one else has, and that is you're you. Everybody has unique experiences that they can bring to the table. Mine happened to be, that of an immigrant story, but it is no more compelling than someone else who has had other experiences that they've had to overcome or challenges or, we all have highs and lows in our lives. And the good thing about being a writer, I think, is that when something bad happens to me or someone breaks my heart, and I've had that happen a few times, now, because I'm a writer, I say, yes, I can use this in my book. It's not wasted. All this pain and suffering, I'm going to make it, work for me. And so then I don't feel like, I guess there's turning from being a victim mentality to one of a conqueror. And so anything that bad happens to me that I don't really have much control over, I go, no, this is good. This is good. I can use these feelings and write them into my novels. And so I don't care who you are. You're you. And so I always remember this. A copy of a Picasso is still a copy. It's worth $1, but an original painting is an original regardless of who the artist is. And so be the original, use your experiences, use your life, use your pain, use your suffering, use your joy, use your happiness. Put that into your story, put that into your characters, use your imagination to make it, the plot, obviously not everyday life, but everyday life can be interesting, written in a certain way too. So, but be you. And use your tool set that you've been given and paintbrushes and paint and do something that no one else can do because they're not you. And there will be an audience for that. I don't know how large that audience will be, but there'll be someone out there who connects with your experiences and your thinking and want to be part of that. So that's what I say to everyone has something to offer.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter of the podcast, where we have amazing authors on from around the world. My author friend today on this show is from my country, my province, and I'm so excited to have Jenny here on the show. We're going to be talking about her books. We're going to be talking, she has multiple books for you. We're going to talk about her journey as an author, and we're going to be kind of unpacking her latest book for you as a reader. There's a lot of great stuff for you here. Jenny, welcome to Living Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I should probably say my pen name is J.L. Witterick because I'll never find Jenny on the book. But Jenny is much more personable and I like it. But it is J.L. Witterick if people are trying to find the author.
Excellent. Tell everybody where you are in this big world of ours.
Okay. Currently, I am actually, I'm in Innisfil, which is a small town just north of Toronto. And I'm by a lake. I love water. I love animals. And I just realized that there was some rabbit poo in my front yard. So I didn't see the rabbit, but I know it was here. And I love that. I love the country. And it's for me to look at greenery and water is very therapeutic. And I think it helps with my writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up just north of you in Barrie, Ontario. Yeah. So that's kind of where I grew up.
Okay.
So I know exactly where you are.
I'm on the border.
That's
I'm on the border between the two. So
there you go. Good.
Yeah.
I love that. I love having Canadian authors on the show. I get to talk to authors around the world, but when I have somebody close to home, it's just a little more special.
Oh, thank you.
To have you on the show. So welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We're talking to authors here at the beginning of the podcast.
Okay.
And I'm looking for encouragement from an author to an author that's listening.
For sure.
Jenny, so I'm curious to know, let's put you up on a stage at a conference for authors. Yes. You're the keynote speaker.
Yes.
And you're going to be talking to a bunch of authors.
Yes.
What would you get up and what would you talk about? What would be your topic? And how would you encourage an author in the audience?
Okay, well, actually, I have done exactly what you just said. And I will pull out an excerpt. And the reason I will pull out this particular excerpt is because after I stepped down from the podium, a bunch of people lined up. And what they said to me was, thank you so much for telling me that, because I've been feeling very discouraged. And what you said actually made me feel so much better and gave me the will or the drive to keep going. So I'll tell you what I said. I mean, I said a few things, but this is what I think struck home was that when your manuscript is rejected, it is not rejected by that company, that entire publishing house. It is rejected by one person who has a certain view of what they think is a good manuscript. Okay, and that person could actually even be a very junior person, could even be a summer student that is given the task of funneling down or reducing the number of manuscripts they receive to a few. So you don't make the list, not because necessarily a group of seasoned, um, I know even I can't even say experts because everybody has an opinion, and you don't need to be an expert necessarily to know a good book, but it could be just a very junior person who just didn't like your style of writing or the topic that you're writing about or the storyline or the character, any reason, and you get rejected. And so you shouldn't feel that what you've created isn't good just because it was rejected, because you have no idea who rejected it and their biases. So keep that in mind when you do get a rejection. And also keep in mind that there's a lot of rejections, before you actually kind of get that one person that says, "Hey, I see something here." And
Hmm.
and I think that's absolutely true. And so I'd like to say don't be discouraged if you've had rejections.
Okay. The one thing we've talked about as well off the recording is just as a published author, you anticipate support from your community when you do a new project and you put it out there. You get some feedback from friends, family, and your community, and that helps. But over time, it seems like you don't seem to get the same volume of support that come from the people closest to you, and how frustrating that can be as an author because you're putting your heart and soul into this project and you are very proud of it, but you don't seem to get the same response you were anticipating. And I'm thinking of authors that are listening, and maybe that's how they're feeling right now is I put my stuff out there, my friends and family kind of don't really seem to have the same passion for what I'm doing that I have. I see it in podcasting. In podcasting, I see it. I do podcasts about everything, and I'll have friends and family that will never listen to my show.
Yeah, I'm
They
sorry
have
about that.
zero interest. They have
Yeah,
zero interest in podcasting at all.
yeah,
And to me, it hurts because it's something I'm passionate about,
yes.
and I want the whole world to come and be a part of the show. So I see it from a
100%.
podcasting point of view, and you from a writing point of view. Like, how
Yeah.
does that sit with you
Well,
when you don't get that kind of response from your
well, I,
books?
I think anybody who's a writer will know that when you create something, when you write, it is so intimate. It is so personal because it comes from you, comes from within, comes from your ideas, your beliefs, how you see the world. And it is every much well it is every bit as much your child as a physical child, and in most cases it takes more than 9 months to create. And so when people don't support you, it feels like somebody says, I don't like your kid, or your kid's ugly, or something like hurtful like
Yeah,
that. Now, I've been very fortunate because I do have a lot of support. I mean, I have people that I never thought would help me, just like minor acquaintances. Because I'll tell you, when you're a writer, you got the knee pads on. You're begging everybody to please, give your book a
right.
shot because you want to get that ball rolling. And it doesn't matter if you're an international bestseller. I mean, unless you're J.K. Rowling or Suzanne Collins, I mean, regardless, everyone's going to buy their next book just on their name alone. And I don't blame them; they're good writers. But when even when you're a best-selling author, which I am, you still need to get that ball rolling. You still need people to read it and spread the word, because I think the word of mouth is so powerful. You believe a friend more than you believe an ad, and so you beg everybody. And I've been really so wonderfully, blessed with so many people who've helped me. But I'll tell you that there have been a very small percentage, but there have been a small percentage of people who I thought I could count on, even family members who just tell me they're too busy to do it. And
Yeah,
it's so hurtful because these are people I've helped before in
yeah,
big ways. And it's just yeah, it's mind-boggling to me because I believe the law of reciprocity is an innate human. I don't know. You just nobody teaches it to you. I think you just somebody's nice to you, nice to them back, and I'm finding that that's not actually true. For
Hmm.
most people, it is, but for some people, it's not, and it is so disappointing when it's not. But I think you just have to put that behind you because most people are actually really good people, and
Yeah.
will help you. So I'm happy about that.
You talked to me previously that you see it as three groups of people.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I put people in three groups. One group, people who help you unconditionally and enthusiastically. Then I put it. The second group are people who help you, but reluctantly. They're dragging their feet. Kind of low priority. The third group are people who actually just don't help you at all. And for the first group, I would do anything for. I will like you need my help in the middle of the night, you whatever. I will do anything for you because you helped me in something that was so important to me, so dear to my heart. I will do anything for you. The second and third group, not so much. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk to the readers now that are listening. We were talking authors. The readers,
Yeah.
I think we as readers have a responsibility to our favorite author to leave reviews
Ah.
and to tell
Oh wow.
why we love these books so much.
Well,
I
that
think
would be
that's like
wonderful.
the right because the author's giving us their words,
Ah.
and then we as readers give our words back. And
Well,
I think we're
yeah.
part of the community then, right?
Yeah, and it's nice that you say that, but a very small percentage of people actually leave reviews of people who buy the book
Right.
or read the story, and I understand that. People enjoy the story, and then they move on to something else, and they don't think to leave a review. I get that, but I would really be so appreciative of anyone who did that for me. The other thing is that when I see it as a privilege, but I flip that around too. That I see it as a privilege that I actually can share my ideas and the way I see the world, and the way I kind of see how people interact with each other and their behavior and philosophical questions about life. I put all that in my stories. So I actually see it as a privilege that somebody lets me enter their mind because that's what a writer is doing. Like I am putting myself into this book. My experiences certainly are all in the story, but woven into my characters. And so when somebody reads my stories, they're letting me into their mind, and that is not a privilege that I take lightly. So whenever I write, and I want to make sure that I am not wasting somebody's time when they read my book or my stories.
Hmm.
I want to make sure every word is in there for a reason, every sentence, every like it moves the story forward, it develop everything. I am not going to waste your time because I don't have the right to do that. And so I think because I care so much about the reader, I hope that that comes across in the story and in their enjoyment of it.
How has your past career
Hmm.
influenced your writing?
Well, I was in the investment industry actually, and someone said to me, "What do you care about whether your book is successful as long as your friends and family read it?" And some of the people, and you already were successful as an author with your first novel, so why do you care? And I think maybe some of those people are the ones that that don't bother kind of helping me here because they think, well, you've already done it, so why should I help you? But it's not like that, because it's like you love every child, and so I think that in my previous life, I managed billions of dollars. I made decisions that move millions of dollars every day, and those were my decisions. And I was one of the few women who founded and was the president of a major investment firm in Canada, and I was also and I did it at a time when there weren't that many women in the investment industry. And I was also president of the CFA Society of Toronto, which actually is the largest local society in the world. And I sat on a few boards of directors and things like that. So I think coming from a background where I was in an industry that was dominated by men primarily. I was given huge amounts of responsibility, even at a quite early age. I think it made me realize that there isn't anything you can't do if you really want it. And my parents were very poor. Were poor. We were immigrants that came to Canada with $200. So I think all those things helped me write characters that are strong and characters that believe in themselves, even though, of course, all of us have periods of doubt, self doubt. But my books tend to have strong female leads. And I think that's because that's what I know. And I think you write about what you know. And I also, my books tend to be inspirational, and they also tend to be um, where you're going to have pretty much a happy ending, because I think there's enough sadness in the world that I don't have to leave the reader feeling sad. I need to do my job to take them through the twists and turns of a plot line, the excitement of a roller coaster up and down, the falling in love with a character, the character falling in love itself, because love to me is a very big part of life. And so there's always romance, my stories. But they're not sappy romances. They're kind of woven into a lot happening in the story, and that's because I'm an action oriented person, and so I want to read action as well, and but I want to infuse that with love, because one of, I guess, the line that I always sign when people ask me to sign their books, because it is the major theme in the stories, I always sign it with life only makes sense with love. And that's the major
Hmm.
theme of the story. Even though there's a lot going on, it's a bit dystopian. It's coming of age, all those things. That's really the main message.
So when you started out writing, your first book got some really great distribution, got picked up right away, and it was a big success story for a first time author.
Yes.
Tell us about that book and what was the story behind how that all happened.
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't intend to be a writer. It was one of those things where it showed up on my door, and I said, "Wow, I this is something that maybe the universe is telling me I should do," because at the time I was still running an investment firm, and largely the reason why my pen name is J.L. Witterick, because I didn't want my clients to think I was writing a novel while I was running their money. Uh, so even though we did very well for them, so it was okay that way. But I didn't want them to think I was distracted. Now I wrote it obviously during my private time, and some people swim, some people run. So I wrote, and but still, that was the reason why the pen name is different than what people in the industry, in the investment industry, knew me as. um, I just went to a film, and I was so moved by it. It was a documentary. I was so moved by the documentary that I said to myself after the film, somebody ought to write a novel about this, because it has all the characteristics that I like. I like a happy ending. It has a happy ending. I like something that's educational. If I'm gonna, my first book for young adults, that's uplifting, that conveys that there is goodness in people, that people have a choice in who they become, that courage and compassion is not for extraordinary people, but really for ordinary people who choose to be extraordinary. And so that was a big message in that first novel. And the vehicle of that was just a Polish mother and daughter who, at great risk themselves, actually, there's nothing more you can risk in your life. I had Jewish families and a German soldier. And the reason why I was particularly drawn to this story was because a lot of Holocaust stories, and I understand, of course, by their nature, portray, Germans as all bad. And I think that 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 is perhaps just lacking the depth that's maybe not completely true. And so the fact that in this true story there was a German soldier who wanted to defect, I thought that was perfect to show more insights into conflicted people. And so I like that aspect of it. And then one day I just said, "Oh, why don't you just write the story, because then it'll get done." And of course, we all have that voice that says, "Well, you don't know how. You can't do it. What are you talking about?" And again, I said earlier to you that I grew up, I couldn't speak a word of English when I was 7 years old. And I was in grade two. By the time I was in grade four, I was top of the class.
Hmm.
And but kids learn quickly. And so I think that I've always loved a challenge. I've always wanted to be the best. And so I said to myself, anyone who's good at what they do, at one point in their life, they didn't know how to do it. Isn't that true?
Right.
So
Right.
why are you
Yeah.
any different? You're starting a little bit later in life. That's true. But it's not like skiing where your bones, you have to be and be strong to go down that hill. I mean, writing, you can learn how to write. So I did. And I mean, as I said, we came from a poor background, so I didn't know anything about stocks. We grew up, my parents were blue collar. We didn't know one person who owned a stock. I didn't even know what a stock was. And then I ended up being, one of the top female investors in Canada with her own firm and billions of dollars to manage. So I'm a big believer in long shots. I'm a big believer in possibilities. And I think the universe, I truly believe this. I think the universe will help you if you're open-minded and you ask for help, but you also visualize all the possibilities and all the things you need to do to get you to your destination. Bring all the resources that you can to that table and hone your focus so sharp that you will hit that target.
Nice. Now, on your website, there's multiple books for readers to fall in love with.
Uh,
I would love to kind of do like a high overview of all of the books so that the listeners know, that we can come and fall in love with you and support you
well, thank you.
as readers. But
Yeah.
kind of take us through the books that we have currently
Yeah, sure,
available
sure, of
to our
course.
readers.
So the first book is called My Mother's Secret. We talked about that. It's based on a true Holocaust story. The second novel is called It Was Always Her, and it was based on a dream I had. Time travel. You go back. We're in the Third World War. Everyone thinks it's the president of the United States' fault. So they send someone back in time to assassinate him while he's in high school, so he never becomes president. And yeah, I know. It's like,
Wow.
whoa. So anyway, I pulled that book right now because I think I can write it better. I like the story. So to me, a book is successful. A successful book needs two components. It needs to have a compelling story. It needs to have a story that just grabs you and doesn't let go. But at the
Right.
same time, it has to be written so well that it is almost poetic. The way for me anyway, my standard, it almost has to be poetic. And I write with very simple language, but I write with depth despite that. And it's a technique I use because I am trying to reach all levels of understanding in English. And to me, the best teachers in high school were the ones that were able to take a very complex subject and make it simple. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do. And I think I do that successfully because I try so hard. But the second novel I think could be written better. So we pulled that. And I'm rewriting
Okay.
it right now. And we're going to relaunch that. The story's the same, but just the way it's written is going to be, I think, much better because I'm better now than I was before when I wrote that book. So
Right.
I don't want anything out there that I think could be better. So that one, and then and then I didn't write a novel. It's actually a good thing. It was just a fun project because I really live by this philosophy, and the philosophy changed my life. And so I thought, why don't you share it with others so that maybe it can help them? It's a silly little book actually called It's Actually a Good Thing, and it's all about instances where when something bad happens to you, you flip the page over and then you say, well, actually, it could be a good thing for these reasons. And so much so I live by that, so much so that I'm actually not afraid of almost anything, or if anything, if I have a major setback or any failure, whatever, I don't live with fear because I think, well, there's got to be something, undercurrent here that is a good thing. And so um, the like my recent novel, You Can't Take the Truth, for example, originally it was supposed to be published by Simon and Schuster 2 years ago, and it was delayed and delayed and delayed, and there were some issues, political issues, I think, within the company, and the book was delayed, and I was very disappointed by that, and then the person responsible for my project ended up leaving the company, so my project kind of got lost. And when you wait 2 years to have a book to be published by a publisher and then it gets lost and you have to start all over again, you can imagine how heartbreaking that is. But I took that time and said, well, maybe the universe is telling me something here. Maybe I should re-examine that manuscript. And I did. And I thought, well, wait a second, I can make this way stronger. So the funny thing is, I'm actually grateful for the fact that the book didn't get published 2 years ago because I don't think it would have been as good as it is today. I cannot make it any better than it is today. I know because I've tried, and it took me that time period to make it better and better and better. And so I thank the universe for giving that to me, even though at the time I didn't think. that it was a good thing. And there's a Garth Brooks song called "Thank God for Unanswered Prayers." That's a good
Yep.
song because it is true.
I love that. Okay, so when you pull back, it wasn't always her, and you kind of pull it back from being released and it's not available right now. When you do that, are you going to then go look at feedback, reviews, comments about the book? And does that influence you at all when you rework the story before you
Yeah, I
re-release it
mean, I
again?
look at all the comments that people leave for my books for sure.
Yeah.
But my writing style is it's really quite nuanced in terms of what I'm trying to do. So I do take the comments, but I think that what I'm trying to do is going to up the game. It's going to take it to a different level in terms of the quality of writing, the I don't know, the artistic aspect of it, I think, is going to be, much improved. And I think a lot of that is taken because this third novel has those characteristics. And and someone has said to me, reading your book is like listening to a song. It just flows so well. And then someone else said, when I read your book, it's like looking through the lens of a kaleidoscope with each turn there's a twist like it looks completely different and I want to keep turning it for the beautiful pictures I see. So those are extremely encouraging and powerful metaphors for how people see this latest book. I didn't get that in the second one, so I know I can make it better.
How you said that it sounds like a music, it sounds like a song when we're reading. How does music influence your writing?
I love music. I mean, I say this, I think, in the book, blood may be what flows through my veins, but it is music that nourishes my soul. And I write with music. I sometimes sing along while I write, and people think that's insane. But I do because I know the song so well. It's a different part of my brain that's doing that. But I definitely listen to music. And when I want to write a moving passage, I put on music that tugs at my heart or music that I've, just for some reason in my subconscious, it's meaningful because perhaps I had a relationship with somebody when that song was on or whatever. And so I do that and for I can't explain it. The power of that music, the emotions in that song or the lyrics or the melody flow from me into the words. So I don't even know if I can take credit for that. I feel like I'm just a vessel or channeling that emotion into the words and into the characters. And so I think my writing is more powerful because it does have the aspect of not just me, but the power of music behind it. And then interesting enough, in this particular novel, unlike the others, my main character is similar to me in that music is, and I that quote about what nourishes is she actually says that, and in this particular novel, she writes songs for a hobby, not thinking they would go anywhere, and of course it turns into a big thing. So I have included the lyrics of the songs that she writes, but they're
Nice.
songs that I wrote. And in the audiobook, which is being produced right now, those songs will be played by my band, the band that I don't, we're not in the band. I'm not involved in that band anymore, but it is, yeah, it is kind of fun to do that. I know Suzanne Collins in her last two novels, had introduced music into her novels and songs. And I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't do it for that reason. I have a great respect for her and I like her writing style. That's kind of how I like to write myself, is very clean, very fast moving. And so I aspire to be to be like that, and it was kind of cool that she did that. But I would have done it anyway. It's just like cool that she did that in the last two novels.
Are those songs then only available through the audiobook?
Those songs are also, I think, available on. I think there's something called SoundCloud or something like that. I can't.
Okay, SoundCloud. Yeah,
SoundCloud,
yeah,
yeah, SoundCloud.
yeah.
But I'm not sure. I haven't checked lately. But I think it's kind of cool. People, if they have the physical book or the ebook, the Kindle version, they'll see the lyrics. But it isn't quite the same without the melody.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's still cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we'll include any links we can in the show
Oh,
notes
thank
for
you.
people
Okay.
to listen and
Oh,
read along.
okay.
I'm thinking if you have the paper copy of the book as well, it'd be still nice to have access to the songs,
That's true.
even if you're not
Actually, that's a good
listening, right?
point.
So,
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool if they wanted to look it up on SoundCloud. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
There you go. We'll dig it up. We'll find
Okay,
it. Put it
okay,
in the notes. How's
okay.
that? That's good.
That's awesome.
I'm a musician, so you have me at music. So I'm so excited that
Yeah,
that's part of what fuels you.
it
I had
is.
one author on, and when he wrote his books, every chapter was based on like a tone or a theme of a song.
Hmm.
And what he did was he just created a playlist on Spotify
Wow.
and put a QR code in his book.
Oh,
So when you're reading chapter two,
oh my
the song
gosh.
that inspired chapter two was available on Spotify. So you could listen to the
That
song
is so
while you're
cool.
reading. And I'm like, that's such a great
That
idea,
is
right?
so, so cool. Wow.
So it really interactive for the paper copy too, because you could just take a screenshot
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
QR code,
yeah.
takes you right to that
Yeah.
playlist, which
Well,
is pretty
well,
interesting.
something kind of freaky. I don't know if that word freaky or mind-boggling has been happening to me, and it's been happening to me for the last few years. Is when I review my manuscript. I have music in the background, and I'll read a word, and that word, exact same word, will be in the song that I'm listening to, and it's not a common word. I don't count common words, because that wouldn't that's not spectacular. But we're talking about very unique words, like for example, the word freight train. You never hear the word freight train in a song, and I'm reading the
No.
word freight train and Bruce Springsteen like a freight train through my mind at the exact same nanosecond comes on, and I that happens to me like 2 3 times a night sometimes. And we're talking about words like dream, music, earth. I feel the earth move,
Yeah.
and I'm
Right.
reading
Right.
Earth,
Yeah.
and I hear Carol King sing Earth, and I just go, ah, ah. And sometimes it's an entire phrase that I'm reading that comes on the music, and it's not a playlist. I listen to everything. I listen to
Yeah.
I listen. So it's a very random. I have playlists, but I also listen randomly, and I can't explain it. And the only thing I can say is that there is something. There's a greater force out there that we can't see. Because I'm at the point where I cannot rationally or logically explain this. And
Right.
yeah, but when it does happen, I always pause and I look up and I say, "Thank you. I know you're there and you're trying to help me. I really appreciate it." That's what I
Yeah.
do. A moment of gratitude.
I think that books and music combined together are a great transportation vehicle to take you somewhere else, back in
100%.
time,
Yeah.
to an event, a
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
an event, whatever, a
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
They just take you there, and the fact that you can combine words and music
Yes.
together,
Yes.
that's a superpower. I think that you have for your books. I really do.
Uh, well, you know what? I can't take credit for it because I think it's just coming through me. I don't think it's coming from me, if that makes sense.
But you're open to it
I
as a
am.
writer,
I am.
where some writers might not be open to that or aware of it.
I guess.
You are, so that's a great advantage, I think.
I guess. Yeah. I'm grateful for it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some nights it doesn't happen, but very rarely does it not happen. Then I go, oh, I guess you're busy today helping save the world.
So my show is called Living the Next Chapter. So I like to ask my guests this quite often. How are you living your next chapter as an author, a writer, creative person? Like what keeps you motivated to keep going further?
Well, when I receive emails and if anybody wants to contact me, it's Witterick, my last name, witterickbooks@gmail.com. I get emails from people from all over the world because my first book being global, telling me how much they enjoy the book. I get letters, packages of letters from schools, from the students telling me how much they enjoy my book. So I don't think there's, even when I made millions of dollars, not that that is a bad thing, it didn't actually give me the level of joy that that does. I don't know if that makes sense, but it really, because when you make money for people, then it's like, well, what are you going to do for me tomorrow? Or next
Right.
quarter. And but when people tell you that they cried reading your book and that it made them think of this or that, or one guy, actually, as much as I said that my second novel is being pulled back to rewrite, he said to me, he emailed me, he said, "Thank you so much for that book." And he said, I lost my wife about a year ago, and I haven't been able to get over it. I've been in a deep depression, and when I read your book, it really helped me. So thank you so much. And I couldn't believe it because I didn't think it was that kind of a book. But the time travel story. But the reason why he goes back in time is not actually the reason he thinks, because he actually goes back to save the girl that he loves. But he doesn't know that
Mm.
when he first goes back. So And I talk about how, love is timeless pretty much in that novel. So again, centered on love, like I said earlier. But I was surprised because in retrospect, I think that novel, as I said, could be written better, and I am writing it better. But just to have someone tell me that, I mean, the impact that you have on people with words perhaps extends far, wider. Those ripples in the water when you throw a stone maybe are
Right.
greater than you think. And so, I mean, I'm hoping that my novel, my ideas, my stories survive me, that people will read them even after I'm gone, and that I will have done something perhaps that matters, so that, you know, that can touch people's lives more than I can as one person.
For all of the books that you write, is there any common theme or thread that seems to keep rising up in every book that you write? Is there something that ties them all together?
Yes. People say, well, your books, if you want to be a famous author or a successful author, you should choose a genre and stick to it, because then people know what to expect and you'll build a fan base. But I don't, I don't write I don't know. Of course I want fans, but I didn't start out writing to build a fan base. I started writing because I was inspired by a story. And so what motivates me is inspiration. The second one was inspired by a dream I had that felt so real and so compelling. I woke up like almost crying because like he went back in time to save her, but I won't spoil it. So I thought, wow, this I have to write this. The universe is telling me to write this story. And I wish I'd done a better job, but it did tell me to write it, I think. And then this third story is based on the fact that our world is becoming more and more virtual, where people are losing touch with each other, where people are at a restaurant I've seen and they're sitting directly across from each other and they're
Right.
looking on their phones. They're not even looking at each other while they're eating their meals, and they're on a date or they're married. I don't know what, but we're just becoming so disconnected into this virtual world. I wanted to address that, and I wanted to do it in a way that points out the dangers of that. And so, but the underlying current, so the subject matter of all my novels are different, but the underlying major theme is the power of love to heal and to keep you whole. So my first novel is about the power of love for fellow human beings that you may not even know, but you're willing to do something that is at great cost to you to save people's lives that you don't even know. So love. Second novel, obviously romantic love, and that love can endure more than one lifetime. That you can go back in time and you would still fall in love with the same person, kind of thing. And then, which I am a hopeless romantic. I want to believe that. Anyway. So then the third novel is also how love is what allows you to forgive. Love is what makes you whole after society has broken you up in every way again, and when you've been abandoned by your parents, um, you know, and when you are unloved by people who you live with. That when you find love, it is like a plant that finally finds the soil and is watered and gets the sun it needs to grow. And so that's how I see life. I see love as being an essential part of being healthy. And so that's probably the major underlying current. And also courage and compassion is a big part of the stories, and sacrifice, because I think that without sacrifice you don't really know how much someone loves you, because if they're never having to give up or something of value or important to them in order to love you, in order to be with you, then it's like, well, does he, like, okay, so it wasn't all that, there needs to be something for the reader to see, wow, he loved her that much or she loved him that much. And in order for that to happen, you have to have a big element of sacrifice. So there's all those things in my novels.
I like that. I like the common thread. I think that's really important for the readers.
Yeah.
Because again, once a reader finds an author they love,
Yes.
it's trying to unpack and figure out what ties
That's
all of
right.
these
That's
books
right. And
together. I think that's good.
and I forgot to mention that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because all my novels are written the same way, even though they're on different subject matters. And so they're written with very fast paced because I want to appeal to young people who have short attention spans. And I want
Yeah.
to appeal to even people who don't typically read, which has been the case with my reader base. A lot of them don't typically read books, but they love. I've had people who where their English is their second language and they never read a novel and they loved mine.
Right.
I've had young
Yeah.
people who don't like to read. The teachers have told me that they had trouble getting some of the kids to read, but the kids loved my novel because I use I don't I think big ideas don't need big words. So, we said that and I think that I try to make the story, I try to make the dialogue, I try to make everything in a way that's very relatable and easy to read, but at the same time gives has depth to it, so that people of all ages, kind of a crossover novels that I write, YA, but also adults can enjoy it. It's kind of like watching Shrek, where the kids love it, but the adults do too, because it's
Right.
there's nuances, right, that you don't pick up as a kid, but you will as an adult. But the kids love
Mm.
all the kind of the action and everything. So I write that way.
So, what is your typical age group then? Do you think for your
Well,
readers?
my readers age from anywhere from 12 to over 80. And it was kind of
Wow.
cool. Yeah, because not too many books can do that, but my books do that.
No.
They do.
And your books have made their way into the school system and all that as well.
Yes, it's on the recommended reading list. The first one, it's on the recommended reading list for schools in the U.S. And this latest novel, we're in the process of presenting it to Scholastic, so hopefully it gets in there. That'd be kind
Nice.
of cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have
Right.
a lot of teachers that like it. So hopefully, their endorsement of it will help too.
We've had somebody on from there in the past on the show, and they do events in schools and stuff for reading events and
Yeah,
stuff for
absolutely. And
to
I
give,
love that. And I already am connected to a lot of schools. So hopefully that'll work in my favor. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I love that.
Thank you.
Jen, take us to your website. Tell us, a little bit more about the site and what we're going to find on your website. I have it up while we're chatting. It's beautiful, by the way.
Oh,
Tell us about your website. And then, as well, I have a question to kind of wrap up our conversation.
yeah.
Really love having you here.
Thank you.
Tell us about your website.
Well, I'm not a tech savvy person, and thank you for saying you left the website, but it's quite dated because it doesn't even
It's
have my
great.
latest book on there.
Yeah, it's great. I love
And
it.
so it's actually in the process of being revamped. And I don't know if most authors are also good at websites and things like that. I can tell you this one is not. And so I've had some friends helping me with it. And we're gonna put information about the book and where they can buy it and all those things on there. Right now, it is currently available on Amazon, and that's probably the easiest way to get it. It will be in the bookstores later. It's in the distribution pipeline right now.
Good.
Yeah, and they can also see a lot of my videos on TikTok. That I do that, and I make TikTok videos about mostly animals because I love animals. My dog's in there a lot. Music. I listen to a lot of different bands. So music. It probably is not the best website to promote my book, but I love those things. So that's what's on there.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's great. That way we can connect with you as a person as well. I
I guess.
like I
I
like when you
guess.
show your
I
personality.
guess.
I think that's great.
By the way, you said commonality. All my books usually have a pet in them, either a dog or a cat, and I both.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up here, Jen, with
Yeah.
I'm thinking of somebody listening to this right now, and maybe they've come from some humble beginnings.
Okay.
Maybe they don't feel like they have a story in them that would reach a wide audience.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have the support to write their book,
Yeah.
and they feel quite alone in the process.
Yes.
And like, who would ever read my book, right? Like, who am I that anyone be interested in what I have to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From your perspective, you talked about your family coming to Canada and starting with very little, and look where you are now. It's amazing that,
It's a great
that this
country.
path has brought you, right?
Great country.
Right.
I don't
And
know if it would have been possible if I were in another country, but it was possible here because it's a great country.
there's authors listening, though, and they feel like they're really struggling
Yeah.
to kind of get started
Yeah.
in writing their book and sharing their story.
Yeah.
If you could have 5 minutes with them to kind of
Yeah.
share your insights and encouragement for
Yeah.
them, what would you say to them?
I would say that you have something to offer that no one else has, and that is you're you. Everybody has unique experiences that they can bring to the table. Mine happened to be, that of an immigrant story, but it is no more compelling than someone else who has had other experiences that they've had to overcome, or challenges, or, we all have highs and lows in our lives. And what the good thing about being a writer, I think, is that when something bad happens to me or someone breaks my heart, and I've had that happen a few times, now, because I'm a writer, I say, yes, I can use this in my book. It's not wasted. All this pain and suffering, I'm going to make it, work for me. And so then I don't feel like, I guess there's turning from being a victim mentality to one of a conqueror. And so anything that bad happens to me that I don't really have much control over, I go, no, this is good. This is good. I can use these feelings and write them into my novels. And so I don't care who you are. You're you. And so I always remember this. A copy of a Picasso is still a copy. It's worth $1, but an original painting is an original regardless of who the artist is. And so be the original, use your experiences, use your life, use your pain, use your suffering, use your joy, use your happiness. Put that into your story, put that into your characters, use your imagination to make it, the plot, obviously not everyday life, but everyday life can be interesting, written in a certain way too. So, but be you and use your tool set that you've been given, and paintbrushes and paint, and do something that no one else can do because they're not you. And there'll be an audience for that. I don't know how large that audience will be, but there'll be someone out there who connects with your experiences and your thinking, and want to be part of that. So that's what I say to everyone. Has something to offer.
Wow, what a great spot to end on.
Yeah.
JL, I love this.
Thank you.
See, we've used JL, we've used Jenny, and we used Jen. You've covered all the bases.
It's terrible
right?
when I say you can call me anything. Because you can, I don't care. Thank you.
I love it. I
Thanks,
love it.
Dave.
Again, so much. Thank you so much for being on the show.
pleasure.
We'll have links for everything
Yes.
in the show notes so people can follow up with you.
Thank you.
And again, a reminder for everyone, as you buy JL's books, you're going to leave a detailed review so that JL can see your comments. I think it's really meaningful. And it's our responsibility as readers, I think, to be kind and give back to our authors. So that's my encouragement. So I hope you see a big surge in comments.
That's nice of you. It doesn't have
you.
to be detailed. I'll take any feedback, like even a thumbs up I'll take.
There
Thank you.
I love it.
Thanks so much,
Thank you, JL.
Dave.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All the information, everybody, in the show notes, as always. Thank you for listening. Go and support another great Canadian author here on the show, and make sure that you tell somebody about this episode. Share it with them. You're looking for a little bit more love in your life and in your reading, go check out JL's books. And when you're on your next date, put your phones away and enjoy the conversation. Thanks, JL, for being here.
Thank you, Dave. Pleasure.
Hey, as we exit the podcast, as we leave out the door, I know the car's running. Somebody's eagerly waiting for you to get out there and go home. As we exit the podcast, I just want to ask, if you have time, I would truly appreciate it. We ask for you to do this for our authors. When you buy your book, we ask you to leave a review. Why? Because it means a lot to the author, and it tells other people that the book is great. Now, you don't hear me ask for this very often, so I'm going to do this here because we're friends, right? You and I are friends. I would love a review of this show because it'll tell more people to come and listen to this podcast. So if you have Apple, wherever you're listening, there's probably some way to give a star rating or leave a comment about the show. YouTube, you can always leave comments on YouTube. Every episode's there. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a review, leave a rating, and share this with somebody. That's probably the best way to grow the podcast, is for you to share it. And by listening to the end of the episode, like you're doing right now, tells all the apps this is a good podcast. So thank you for already helping me by listening to this part. But go leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for being part of the podcast family. Take care.